Heather, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Degrassism. It's not Cutter Degrassi Unpopular Opinion or a mini-series. Well, I've done a lot of Degrassisms, I've done over 100 of them, and I've did a lot of polls coming up in the past. I think I've done, 11, 12 things that had polls to do with it? Probably more, but I don't want to go into it and check my playlist. Because, well, I did another Degrassism 10 days ago, and for context, this is being taped on November 18th, 2022, and it said, biggest mistake by a character in the Rick Murray storyline. Now, I know a lot of people are like, you're doing a Rick Murray thing again? Well, here's the thing. So I said, in the poll, now remember, Reddit polls can only have 6 options. So I said, I have 6 characters with different things that they messed up on. One I think in my mind will be number 1 for sure, but still I want to know about the Redditors' opinions. And, one of them was Raditch, and I said, well, I know many people will comment Raditch's biggest mistake was ignoring Rick, but if he had refused to have Rick come back, the storyline may not have happened in the first place. And I even said, feel free to comment on other characters and their botches, and I'll add them. So I actually only got one person who wanted to add on a different character and what he or she did wrong. So I did the 6 characters, and there were 229 votes. Now, the person, what they said about the person and all that, like the add-on, I looked at my thing, and I'm going to put the add-on at number 6 instead of number 7. Number 7. So it's 6 plus 1. So it's the top 7 character mistakes in the Rick Murray storyline. 1 mistake per character. Now, I know you could probably say that Jimmy made a big mistake by bullying Rick in the first place. But, I mean, Jimmy did it with good intentions. I mean, after all, he was involved in the Terry and Rick thing in Season 3 because he was on that road trip, which subsequently saw Terry beaten up, put her head on a rock in the coma and all that. Because Jimmy was with Hazel. All that. Well, and Jimmy did admit his fault, so kind of can't hate Jimmy on that. And Sean didn't make a mistake. I almost put the staff in too because, not pushing or protecting Rick enough. Like, I know Snake took accountability for all that. So anyway, let's go. So number 7 is Emma. Well, Emma was 6th on the poll with 8 votes. And I said her biggest mistake was the Orange Ribbon campaign. So Emma did the Orange Ribbon campaign, and then I said in a few unpopular opinions, possibly because of getting back at Manny and Liberty for dumping her off as a friend because, well, let's face it, Emma deserved it for trying to prevent Liberty and Chris from going up because it would affect Emma. I don't know how. And someone said, well, because, Emma now is jealous of Manny getting boys, so she just basically wants that attention. But anyway, yeah, Emma deserved to lose Manny and Liberty as friends. And I think she was just telling them, you dump me off as friends? I don't need you. I'm with Paige's clique. Well, Paige's clique forced her into trying to figure something out to get rid of Rick. Because, Rick came back to school seemingly with no strings attached. And no one cared about her. Raj even told Emma, this is not one of your stupid crusades. And it's like, what the hell? Domestic violence is a decent crusade. Raj has a grudge against Emma. I know it. Like it or not. But simply put, Emma is told by Paige, we need to get rid of this monster, and no one seems to care. And Emma comes up with an Orange Ribbon campaign that people will donate money towards domestic violence victims and wear the ribbons to try to tell Rick that he's not welcome. And, silently get him out without breaking the rules. But that just gets the student standard to use the Orange Ribbon campaign to bully Rick. And yes, that was a top 6. And yes, it will be mentioned later on. But Emma's Orange Ribbon campaign blew up in her face, mostly because Rick tried to bribe his way with Emma with over $500. Alex rips up the check and then rips Emma a new one for not caring about the whole thing. And then, Emma trips Rick up at the dot. Rick goes up to talk to Emma, but then the boys, Spinner and Jay, come up to beat up on Rick. Alex wants to beat up Rick. Emma realizes she's gone too far with the Orange Ribbon campaign and steps in front of Rick saying, we won't do that, and then the campaign's over. Emma's persona non grata, and she's only hanging out with the quiz bowl team of Rick, Toby, and Hannah St. Clair. And Jimmy, for that matter, too. But yes, Emma made a mistake in a sense, but Emma should get less hate for this. I mean, yeah, she did the Orange Ribbon campaign that started the bullying and all that, and maybe Emma was just trying to prevent herself from being in deep trouble with Raditch. But then again, I mean, if Snake found out, Snake would have probably destroyed Raditch, and, you know, there goes Raditch's only ally. But the simple fact is that, you know, Emma, I think in a way, confessed her role about Rick's death, probably off screen and all that. Somebody even did a Reddit post about, did Emma go to therapy for her problems in season 4? If she did, then the writers did a good job not explaining that she did. But she did for eating disorder. All right, so speaking of Alex, that's who one person put. Someone said Alex, and that was Vegeta22. Vegeta saying Alex, like girl helped with setting something up. She had no punishment. I'm going to put her at number 6 on the list because the person at number 5 did a lot worse than Alex. Sorry for the background noise. My stupid heater is going on, and I forgot to shut the door. So anyway, yeah, you know what? I'm going to shut the door. I'll be right back. See my background? Going to add some more stuff to it. What is it? There we go. Now the door will shut. My apologies for that. Yeah, I might as well leave it in because, you know, kind of a blooper reel. Well, regardless of that, Alex makes the list, just ahead of Emma. And Alex's biggest mistake was being part of the prank, the Paint and Feathers prank in the first place. In a sense, I should have taken the students out and made Alex top 6 and made the students probably number 7. But I can't do anything about it. So, so yeah. So Alex was one of the last bullies to try to destroy Rick with Spinner and Jay. Alex had a noble cause to be part of this, to destroy Rick, because, you know, she was victimized by domestic violence because her mother's boyfriends would do that to her mom, and then they lived in women's shelters, and her mom had to cry herself to sleep. It also didn't help that a few seasons later, her mother actually got back together with one of the boyfriends and used Alex's stripper money to bail him out of jail. And then Alex decides to leave and goes to Ajax. So, yeah, I think in a sense that Emma, notwithstanding, Alex had the right idea. I mean, yeah, she envisioned Rick as the embodiment of every guy who wronged her mom and wanted to beat up Rick for that reason. I just wish that she had told other people about the situation, or that we got to hear more about it, because, you know, it might have helped Alex. I mean, yeah, she should get the hate for setting up the Paint and Feathers, because, you know, Spinner and Jay made the Paint and Feathers concoction and then gave it to Alex, who dumped it on Rick. And all that. It's surprising how nobody clued in, thinking that, who did the Paint and Feathers? Well, Spinner did, in a way, with the Paint and Feathers, but I think the students were upset because Spinner tricked Rick into shooting Jimmy. But, you know, Spinner didn't know he had a gun. Rick had a gun. But yeah, Alex lived with the guilt. And Alex did say she was going to go forward to Sauve about something on the Monday after the shooting, but Jay told her not to. And then she just kept everything internalized. She did pretty good. Her tough girl exterior worked out for her. And the weird thing was, Alex was in the same friend group as Paige and all them, mostly after Spinner got expelled. Like, she got lucky. She also got lucky that Spinner, and Jay for that matter, didn't finger her for anything. Spinner, I think, figured that, you know, this stuff was all about the bathroom, so Alex had nothing to do with it. And Jay had a hard on for Alex. But the simple fact is, yeah, Alex did wrong, and, you know, she never got punished for her role because nobody said anything about it. I think Hansel Ackles would have had to throw the book at Alex, but, you know, she probably would have given Alex a bit of a break. Who knows? Okay, so so number 5 in the poll with 13 votes was Jay. Not caring about Terry and only bullying Rick because it was cool. I kind of thought Jay should be ranked a little higher than that. Even top 3, but You know, it's the Redditors who decided. So Jay, was there to push Rick around. Now Jay had no connections to bullying Rick, as the others did. Paige and Spinner, it's understandable because, about Terry being abused by Rick, and they didn't do enough to settle that. Jimmy as well, and Alex to an extent, I can understand. But Jay had no qualms about it. He was just there to try to make a new friend group and to be, the devil on everyone's shoulder. Because he did it to Spinner, and, he was good for that. He got Sean to abandon Emma in season 3 for the Candy Bandits. He got JT to sell prescription drugs in season 5, and he got to be under Spinner and Darcy's chin in season 5 and all that. And then season 7, he's with Manny. But Manny sets up Jay to try to get back at her parents. But, that's kind of weird. What was season 6 again with Jay being the bad guy? He wasn't really a bad guy in season 6. In a sense. But yeah, Jay was always around. Like, Jay knew he had to beat up on Rick and all that to prove a point and all that. And let's not forget that Jay, told Spinner to believe his own crap and get Jimmy and Rick not to be friends anymore. And of course, that led to Jimmy being shot. Anyway. Oh, and for context, the comments on the Reddit post actually were about one person and one person only. I'll get to that. Okay, so number 4 with 19 votes was the students using the Orange Ribbon campaign to bully Rick relentlessly. I know I should put the staff or Alex in the top 6 and not have the students. But whatever. I can't change it now. Can't call it an audible, even though I want to. So anyway, the students, were upset that Rick came back. And, there were a few episodes and a few days in the school year that he wasn't there. It was like, okay, then Rick's nowhere to be found. And then he comes back in Mercy Street, and people are like, what the hell? So the students were upset because they kind of may have heard from Marco and Alex about Raj not doing a thing about it. And then, they said, well, we got to do something through it. If Raj won't do something about it, we'll do it ourselves. We'll take matters into our own hands, if the phrase fits the crime. So that's what they do. They bully Rick relentlessly and use Emma's Orange Ribbon campaign to do it. Now, Emma was kind of in the wrong for doing the Orange Ribbon campaign, but the students took her cause wrong. Emma's Orange Ribbon campaign was going to help with victims of domestic violence, probably helped up Terry. The students took it as a sign to beat up Rick because he's a domestic abuser. He's an abuser. I mean, Rick probably thought that they were going to tire themselves out after a few days to be like, well, Rick got into the lion's den. He's shown he belongs. We're going to have fun, and we're going to cheer him on. And we're going to not bully him. Wrongo. They took it wrong, and the students basically didn't admit their guilt. Maybe they pushed Rick too far and all that. I think the students definitely didn't go to Rick's funeral / visitation. I think the only ones to care enough to go were Toby, JT, and Manny. And I don't know if Raj ever went. I don't think so. All right, so number 3 on the list, on the poll, was with 24 votes, was Spinner. Listening to Jay's BS to put Rick off their scent. Spinner, as I said, was one of the original last bullies to beat up on Rick with Alex and Jay. So, in a sense, Spinner was there for the long haul. Spinner was the guy who dumped Rick into a dumpster to start off Time Stand Still. And then, he had his car spray painted and all that, and he said his car's cursed. Well, remember, Spinner's car was crashed by Paige into Dean's car to get back at Dean for raping her. And the system failed Paige a lot. And, Spinner was dangling that car over Paige. I know Spinner meant well, like, yeah, it's his first car and all that. I get it. But Spinner was kind of a dick towards Paige and wanted to be with Manny, and that got Paige's dander up. And Paige was working to pay off the car. Paige should have just withheld the money from Spinner, saying that, what, you're rooting me. Why don't you just shove it? And if you stay towards Manny, I'm not paying for your car. That would have been perfect. But regardless, Spinner was there. Spinner and Jay were there to tell Rick everything was cool and to do the tie break for Whack Your Brain, and then they make the concussion, even though that Spinner tells Jay that, do you think we should trust Alex? And Jay says, that's what you get for dating the student council vice president. No one asks questions. And so they're happy with their work and all that. Spinner brags to Jimmy about the whole pin and feathers thing. Let's not forget that. And then in a deleted scene, which stupidly wasn't shown, Spinner got in trouble with Raditch for clucking at Rick when he had his pin and feathers outfit back. Spinner, tells Jay Raditch knows, and that's why he says Raditch knows. Although you can say it if you don't watch the deleted scene, it's like that context that Spinner realizes, oh no, I just told Jimmy everything and Jimmy is going to narc on me. Either outcome, Jay wants to help Spinner out, and Spinner believes Jay's BS and all that. But to Spinner's credit, he does want to confess because he learns about the shooting and says, oh no, we told Rick everything about Jimmy, and he had a gun. And Spinner internalized it for 3 months because that's how much time Jimmy said he was in rehab. 3 months. Wow. It's amazing. It's amazing how Spinner did it. But unlike Alex, he didn't internalize everything for long. He just basically came clean to Jimmy and everyone shunned him. I mean, he had to be shunned. All that. He wanted to make things right, and then when people started disappearing from him, he goes to Athalakos and confesses his role, and Jay's role for that matter, about the painted feathers. He gets zero tolerance, blah, blah, blah. He's gone. He's out the door. But, Spinner, in a sense, understands. Because, he knew he did wrong. But Spinner at least had the gumption to do a redemption arc. And in Season 5, he got his redemption arc, in a way. Alright, so number 2 was the one I thought would be number 1. But anyway, 75 votes. First place got 90, but second place with 75 was Rick retaliating with the gun towards Jimmy and Emma. I thought Rick was going to be number 1 because, quite frankly, Rick was the bad guy in the situation. He's the worst guy, and everyone's going to vote for Rick. So I gave a pity vote to Raditch. I guess I kind of spoiled who number 1 is. But anyway, yeah, I gave a pity vote to somebody else. And Rick, should have been number 1. Well, he wasn't. Well, of course, the whole story with Rick, I'll try to paraphrase as much as I can. He got chastised at school. Everyone wanted to use the Orange Ribbon campaign to beat him up, but Rick does not let the Orange Ribbon get him. He basically says, I'll make sure everyone knows I've changed, but, no one's willing to believe Rick whatsoever. And, Rick has a right to education. So, of course, Rick gets victimized at Time Stand Still with being dumped in the dumpster by Spinner and Jimmy. And then the next day, gets spray cans and Circle X's his tormentor's cars and all that. Alex tells Spinner and Jay that it was Rick without evidence, but I guess kind of she wanted to make trouble for Rick. They plan to destroy Rick, but they can't let Raditch in on it because Raditch is going to ask questions. So anyhow, Rick feels good about himself. He's got Jimmy and Emma on his side in a way. He's got everyone happy. And then, the painted feathers and the tie break. And then Emma spurns him after Rick kisses her, saying that she pitied him. And then he was all by himself. He goes to his dad's briefcase, gets the gun, and then wants to go after Paige first and foremost. But Paige calms him down inadvertently. Well, it calms down and inadvertently makes Rick drop the gun into his backpack. But it was never visible to anybody. So anyway, he goes back to his locker, puts the gun back in, cleans his painted feathers off, and then Spinner and Jay basically plan to get on Rick's nerves and try to break off Rick and Jimmy's friendship, which it kind of did. Rick shoots Jimmy, but remember, Rick didn't focus on Jimmy when he shot Jimmy. He turned his head, and he didn't look when he shot Jimmy in the spine. If he had looked at Jimmy, he probably would have got him in the head. Boom, game over. And then he conveniently finds Emma, Toby, and Sean. Sean tries to calm down Rick like a police officer should, and Rick still wants to point the gun at Emma. Sean saves the day by discharging the gun right into Rick's stomach, killing him almost instantly. So yeah, Rick retaliating was terrible and all that. In a sense, Rick's death actually was good rather than him living through Time Stand Still, because if he went to trial and all that, lots of things would have came out and characters would have been destroyed left, right, and center. But yeah, retaliating with the gun was never good. And of course, at number one with 90 votes, who I gave a pity vote to, because, I have to find out the numbers, is Radish with 90 out of 229. Yeah, not preventing Rick from coming back in the first place. Raj did a whole lot of wrong in this storyline, especially the aftermath, like trying to put on a cheering musical instead of this Dracula thing. I understand Radish. I get why he did it. It's just his execution was terrible and all that. It's kind of like Emma. Like, she was a good friend to Manny, and she tried to prevent Manny from being bad, but, her execution was bad. It's like Radish. Like, yeah, I know he's being chastised, and his school's on the 6 o'clock news for all the wrong reasons. I mean, you gotta give the guy credit for trying to cheer up Degrassi, but he just didn't do it the right way. And sooner than later, he's gone. But yeah, his biggest mistake was not telling Rick to go to another school. He may have tried to, but in the end, he couldn't. I'm going to go through the comments with Raj before I give you the context. Rainbow Rambo said, Radish for sure. He never should have let Rick back in the first place. There's even a deleted scene where Marco and Alex try to tell him that Rick's an abuser, but Raj saw it as an allegation and not good enough reason to expel him. It sucks that this had to be his character's downfall after being in Degrassi for so long. But he was on some sort of power trip and lost his compassion in favor of making the school come off as squeaky clean as possible. Someone said, this is for sure on Radish and the parents. It's not as if Degrassi was the only high school in Toronto. Rick's parents could have sent him to a different school, but Radish should have said no to Rick coming back in the first place. He put one of their students in a coma. But you got to remember that Rick's mom actually said she wanted Rick to go to a new school in Time Stand Still Part 1. He mentions it in front of Toby. Well, anyway, Murray Bell says, it's definitely Radish. If he hadn't let Rick back in, none of this might have happened. Rick would have gone to a different school. Paige and her friends would not have feared Rick, which would have had a normal rest of the school year. None of the writers have something to say about it. Haha. Rick not being in the school could have changed so many things in people's outcome. So that's basically the gist of it. So for Radish, it's simple. Radish was the principal at Degrassi for the first 3+ seasons. In season 4, he welcomes Rick back in Mercy Street, and everyone's shocked by it. They do the deleted scene, which was stupidly not shown, in which Radish said that Terry's at a different school, can't comment on her affairs, and to the best of my knowledge, there's been no criminal charges. And without a criminal charge, a person can study at my school, like it or not. He's got the right idea. He said that, there was no criminal charges. And that's the thing, though, too. I mean, if there was a criminal charge, I think Raj definitely would never have done anything to let Rick back in Degrassi. But yeah, and, a lot of people take that as saying Raj is trying to just deflect blame and all that, saying that it wasn't his decision. Could have been. Raj could have went against the grain and not let Rick back if he knew about how everything was. He saw it as an allegation. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, he could have just said that. But the best thing Raj could have done was tell Rick he had restrictions to see Sylvie and to behave himself. I think if that was well known, then probably they would have figured that Rick was there. But they also could have circuit break Rick. All that. And of course, one of the biggest mistakes, as said in a YouTube video, not mine, but was that Raj didn't calm the students down. He didn't set up an assembly. He didn't say anything over the PA or the video system. Just basically saying, Rick's back, his allegations and all that. I can't do much. He could have been honest. Yes, they probably would have hated on him, but at least Raj would have known that he was hated for good reason. But the simple fact is, yeah, you should not have let Rick back in the school because, it's going to trigger a lot of people and all that. And especially, he should not have gone on Emma's case saying all her crusades are stupid. I know he still had the grudge against her for Fight for Your Right Season 2. And yes, Emma had some blame to do with it. But the simple fact is that Raj, I think, was trying to make sure he was the boss, and he kind of pissed off the student body. But the simple fact is that, Radish was wrong. And Radish ignored Rick. Okay, yes, he did. But the simple fact is, Rick did not come straight forward with Radish. People forget that Rick only said, Jimmy's, I don't want Jimmy on the quiz team because he's bugging me and he makes no qualms about it and he doesn't want to be my friend. If he said he's bullying me and all that, Radish could have done one of two things. Number one, believe Rick right off the bat. Or number two, and the simple one is just say, if this keeps, I can't help you now, but if this keeps happening, come to me and then I'll do something about it. He could have saved his butt with that philosophy, but no, he didn't. And Snake chewed him out on 2 occasions. Once in a deleted scene, once in the meeting room when we saw it. And Radish saw the paint and feathers thing because the wacky brain thing was streamed on his computer, which was cool back 20 years ago. But still, I mean, Radish said he was going to find the perpetrators and all of that. And he said he would. And Snake didn't like his methods, and Radish said, "This is not daycare. Make friends is not part of the curriculum," which means he missed the point again. He missed the point. What Snake, is trying to say. So Snake, is upset with Radish in the meeting room. Radish says, "How was I supposed to know one student out of 700 was going to retaliate due to some spilled paint?" And yeah, Radish was right. And Snake thinks that Radish didn't do enough. Snake took accountability at the end of it, but Radish seemed to not to. Maybe he did off camera, like basically in private, but not in front of the students. He should have just told the students he screwed up. I mean, yeah, they hated him, but at least Radish is being honest. And, kind of led to the downfall. So that was just the icing on the cake. Radish was gone and, was reassigned. I think the school board couldn't fire him because, well, someone said it's hard to fire someone in the wake of a school shooting. But it's also true that maybe the school board kind of figured that if they let Radish go, Radish is going to get on the school board's nerves and saying, they told me to let Rick back. And then, the school board would have been guilty by association and had to do something to fix the problem. But yeah, Radish should not have done that. But the simple fact is, there was no criminal charge. That's why Rick got away with it and didn't get a criminal charge. Like, if there was a criminal charge pressed on him by Terry or her dad or anyone else, even Spinner and Paige, then that would have limited Rick's movement towards Degrassi. But no, they didn't. I'm just shocked at people not doing criminal charges. But then again, Rick probably would have had a good lawyer to say, hey, you know what? They're just upset because of this whole thing. And Terry being a witness, like, how much brain damage should she have? We don't know. But yeah, Raj is to blame and all that. Raj's hate should be a little lower. I mean, he had to let Rick back without a criminal charge. With a criminal charge, Raj definitely would have done something about it. But because there was no criminal charge, he couldn't do much. So there. That's how I say it. There, I said it. Unfortunately, take it with a grain of salt. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond.